Hey, it's Chucky here from SojourningScholar.com. If you're preparing for the IELTS exam, you might have come across the IELTS Progress Check, which is an online platform designed by the makers of the IELTS exam that allows you to experience an official full-length IELTS test before your big day. Now, when we found out about this platform, we were excited to do a review on it. And in this video, I'm going to share our first-hand experience of using the IELTS Progress Check. We'll also discuss other alternatives to the IELTS Progress Check, so this way you can find out if purchasing the IELTS Progress Check is worth it or not. Now, the practice tests for the IELTS Progress Check are available for purchase directly from the website at IELTSProgressCheck.com. There you will find options for both the IELTS Academic and the IELTS General Training tests. You also have the option to choose between a timed or an on-time test. Now, given that you will be taking this test on the computer, the IELTS Progress Check experience will compare closely to the computer-delivered version of the IELTS exam. So, if you really want to simulate the computer-delivered version of the IELTS exam, it's going to be best for you to choose the timed version of this practice test. And in terms of pricing, at the time of recording this video, the cost of the IELTS Academic and the IELTS General Training test are the same at just under $50. But these prices are certain to change in the future, so if you want to find the current information, check out the links in the description section below. Now let's talk about how the IELTS Progress Check works. If you've signed up for an on-time practice test, you can access it whenever you like and attempt it with no time restriction. But if you've bought a time test, you will have to complete these tests in a single sitting, so it's important to make sure you have about 3 hours of quiet time. For our review, we took the time version of the IELTS academic test, and just like the computer delivered version of the IELTS practice test, on this test you're going to have 30 minutes for the listening section, 60 minutes for the reading section, 60 minutes for the writing section, and anywhere between 11 to 14 minutes for the speaking section. And after completing the practice test, your responses will be scored by a certified IELTS grader, and you can expect to receive a score report sent directly to the platform within 5 business days. Now let's talk about our test experience on each of the 4 sections of the IELTS and compare that experience to those you can expect to get on the paper version of the IELTS exam or the computer delivered version of the IELTS exam. Now, starting with the listening section, in this section you will only hear the recording once, so it's important to pay close attention throughout this section. At the end of this 30-minute section, you will have 2 minutes to check all your answers and make any corrections if needed. Now, this 2 minutes is the same amount of extra time that's given on the computer delivered version of the IELTS. When compared to the paper version of the IELTS exam, at the end of the reading section, you're given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Once the listening section is over, the reading section will begin automatically. Here you will have 3 passages to work through, where each passage will have several different question types. Within the reading section, you're free to attempt the passages in any order. At the end of the 60-minute countdown, the system automatically submits your answers, concluding the reading section. Now, the experience here is the same as that on the paper version and the computer delivered version of the IELTS exam, in the sense that you will have a total of 60 minutes to read through all the passages and answer all the questions. Immediately after the reading section, the writing section will begin. In our case, our writing section was the academic version, so here you can expect to have 2 tasks, where the first task will present information in a graphical or tabular form, and you will be asked to describe or explain information in your own words. The second task on the writing section will ask you to write an essay based on your opinion on a given statement. You can choose to attempt the writing task in any order, but note that task number 2 is worth twice the amount of points as task number 1. So you should plan to spend more time on writing task number 2 than task number 1. Now, after 60 minutes, the time runs out and your writing tasks are automatically submitted. The experience in the writing section is identical to that on the computer delivered version of the IELTS, since you're going to be typing your response. In both cases, you get the advantage of working with a word counter, which makes it easier to know when you've met the minimum required number of words. In contrast, on the paper version of the IELTS, you will have to carefully plan your written response since you don't get a word counter. You also don't have the ability to edit your responses compared to those people taking the computer version of the IELTS exam. Finally, you will be presented with the speaking section, where you will be listening to pre-recorded prompts. Now, this section has 3 main tasks, all of which require you to record your answers through your microphone. For task 1, you're going to have short questions that ask you to record 20-second responses. For task 2, a task card shows you instructions and you get 60 seconds to plan and deliver your answer. After this, you need to speak for 90 to 120 seconds. Lastly, task number 3 builds further on the topics discussed in task number 2, and each question requires a 30-second answer. Now, this is where the speaking experience on a real IELTS exam exam is vastly different from that on the IELTS Progress Check practice test. Now, whether you're going for the IELTS on paper or the IELTS on a computer, the speaking section is always done face-to-face with an IELTS examiner, which for many test takers is a much different experience than speaking into a microphone. Now, let's discuss the quality of feedback provided on the IELTS Progress Check platform. As mentioned earlier, within 5 days, you would find your score report posted on the platform. Your overall band score is the first thing that you're going to see on your score report. With it, you get a couple of generalized remarks on your overall performance. This score shows your overall performance on the IELTS Progress Check practice test. After your overall band score, the next scores you will see are your listening and reading section scores. Within this section, you will find generic listening and reading tips for improvement, all of which seem to be automated responses that are based on your band score. Next up are the speaking section results. You can see your overall band score at the top, followed by a description of the 4 areas used to grade your speaking response. Unfortunately, you don't get a chance to listen to your speaking responses again. Following this section, there is a small block with the markers feedback. These include a few personalized remarks related to your performance and can help improve your weak areas. Again, there is no connection between these comments and your response, so you can't see where the mistakes were made. Next, there's a how to improve box that provides some content on improving your speaking abilities. Again, the feedback here is not personalized. Finally is the writing section results, where the feedback is quite similar to that of the speaking section. Following your band score, you can see your results split into 2 parts. The first block provides comments on task number 1, and the second block provides comments on task number 2. You will find brief feedback in each of the 4 areas used to grade your writing response. For each task, you get 2 separate sets of markers feedback, which is somewhat tailored to your response. And even though they include personalized comments in your writing style, there is no reference to your written work. The very last section of the score report contains some general tips for preparing for the IELTS. So how does the feedback on the IELTS Progress Check compared to those of unofficial IELTS prep resources? To find out, we took full-length IELTS practice tests on IELTS course platforms like Magoosh, BestMyTest, and E2 Language, just to mention a few. And on all 3 platforms, you can expect to receive your graded responses within 2 business days, which is much quicker than that of the IELTS Progress Check. Now, starting with Magoosh, the feedback you get on the listening and the reading sections include detailed video and text explanations for all questions. And on the speaking and writing sections, in addition to your band scores, the Magoosh IELTS expert will provide suggestions for improvement that are based on your spoken and written response. You also receive samples for the speaking and writing tasks that show you what a high-scoring response should look like. On the BestMyTest IELTS platform, you will receive a diagnostic report at the end of each practice test with feedback for all 4 sections. This report does a great job of exposing in each section where you're weak and sections where you're strong. This way, you can know where you need to focus the most to see improvements in your section score. The feedback on the writing and speaking sections are also very personalized. For example, in the speaking section, the BestMyTest graders will provide an audio feedback where they play back your spoken response and occasionally stop the playback to highlight your mistakes, followed by some suggestions for improvement. Now, we find this level of feedback to be immensely helpful to IELTS test takers. Finally is the E2 Test Prep platform, which is one of the IELTS courses with the best platform for practicing the IELTS speaking section. Now, unlike BestMyTest and Magoosh, where the speaking prompts are pre-recorded, the IELTS speaking section on the E2 Language platform is conducted live over Zoom. And the best part is that you will receive your feedback from your grader immediately after your speaking section ends. So given all these factors, who should get the IELTS Progress Check, you might ask? In our opinion, if you're just starting your IELTS preparation journey, it may not be best to purchase the IELTS Progress Check simply because the score report lacks concrete feedback on how to improve your scores. Instead, you will be better off going with IELTS courses from unofficial resources such as Magoosh, BestMyTest, or E2 Language, as these course providers offer a lot more valuable learning resources that can help you make quick improvements on your IELTS band score. In contrast, if you're well prepared for the IELTS exam and you just want to have a gauge of where your IELTS score fall before your test day, then you might find some value in their certified score reports. For more complete and unbiased test prep course reviews, check out our website at sojourningscholar.com, or you can do a quick Google search using our name. Thank you for watching and best of luck on your IELTS prep.